Hi everyone, Jamie Humphries here for Six String Alliance, and today we've got a quick riff. This was a request and we are taking a look at the Dokken George Lynch track, Mr. Scary. Now this is a little bit of a different quick riff to normal. Normally I just look at the riffs. Whilst I have included all of the main riffs, I'm also going to be looking at some of the solo examples. We're basically going to be looking at the first lump of the track. So I've put together a lesson-specific arrangement. So click the link in the description where you'll be able to download the backing track that fits this arrangement as well as the transcription. So let's kick things off by taking a look at the performance. So today we're taking a look at Mr. Scary, which is featured on the 1987 Dokken album, Back for the Attack. Now, George Lynch has stated that originally this track was meant to be a vocal track, but due to the kind of complex nature of the parts and the arrangement, it ended up being an instrumental track. And this is a track that's kind of his namesake, if you like. This is George's signature track. Now, a while ago in another quick riff lesson, I took a look at River of Love from the debut Lynch Mob album. I'm a big fan of George Lynch, and a couple of people wrote on there, it'd be really cool if you could look at Mr. Scary. Now, probably about 13 or 14 years ago, I transcribed Mr. Scary for Guitar Techniques magazine, did a backing track for what used to be the CD on the front, and obviously did the manuscript. So I dug that out and had a look at it. And obviously things have changed a little bit since then. We've got isolated tracks on YouTube. You know, the algorithm for software and apps to slow things down is a lot better, so you can really hear things. Plus also I use Isotope RX10 where I can separate all of the music and really dig into the guitar parts. Now, whilst I was pretty surprised at how kind of accurate this transcription was, bearing in mind that I think I did it from probably an MP3 or even maybe a CD. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, I wish I could have done that better. I should have done this like that. So I decided to put together an abbreviated arrangement. I wanted to look at all of the riffs, plus I wanted to look at the first half of the track and look at the first examples of lead guitar. Not to take anything away from anyone, there are some fantastic performances of this track on YouTube, and I've had a look at quite a few just to see how people have interpreted it. But not many people have gone down the route of looking at the actual original and really studying the way that George Lynch played it. And he has said himself that it's pretty impossible to be able to play this track as per the original because it featured lots of layering and lots of overdubs. So what I've tried to do here is basically take that same route and look at the original parts as they were recorded. And there was a few things that I discovered that were quite surprising compared to the way that I'd interpreted them on my original transcription. Now, I had a comment on a video a little while ago that I did on The Boys Are Back in Town, and someone said, Scott Gorham has taught this track, so why should I bother watching your video? Very true. And I'm probably opening the doors for the similar sort of thing with George Lynch, because there are a few videos of George teaching this track. Now, I've got to be a little bit careful here because I don't want to come off as being obnoxious or anything, because I have the utmost respect for George, and who am I to comment? You know, it's George Lynch, for God's sake. But some of the things that he's teaching on these videos don't really represent the original recording. And there's a few things that he plays that I've seen him play from very early live renditions that don't really match up with the harmonies on the original. I don't know whether he's kind of adopted the parts to just be sort of simplified fingerings, but I've really, really dug into this. And I must have written this new transcription, rewritten it about 4 or 5 times and gone in and changed fingerings and re-listened and discovered other things. And I'm fairly confident that this is pretty accurate, although, again, I think that as a transcriber and someone presenting lessons to you, I have a kind of duty to present them in a way which I feel is the best way to play them, if you like. So I think this is pretty accurate. There's like I said, I'm not trying to come off as arrogant or anything when I'm saying that George's lessons, there's a few things that he teaches where he says, oh, I did it this way. And he clearly didn't on the recording. Maybe it's just he recorded it so many years ago and he's so used to playing it. So I've really dug into this, and hopefully that is reflected in the lesson and the short performance that you saw at the beginning. I think it's pretty accurate. So I will address these parts as we reach them during the lesson. Let's talk a little bit about gear. I haven't really gone for George's tone. I just went for a decent sounding ballpark tone, quite gainy with sort of quite a lot of that sort of top end sort of tiz to the sound. George's sound is quite bright on the original recording. I've chosen to use my Kramer 84 mainly for the look of the guitar, because it's the only guitar that I've got with the hockey stick headstock. Obviously, George plays ESP, but I think this is kind of in keeping with that visually, and also the setup of the guitar as well, just a single humbucker and a Floyd. So this guitar has worked really well for this video and recording session. I'm running into my Boogie JP2C, and I'm running into Cab Clone IR, where I'm just using a Mesa 4x12 impulse response. I'm also using a couple of pedals. I'm using a Boss octave pedal for the main riff and also for the final riff. I think that George said that he used a Mutron, I think it was some kind of old vintage octave pedal, but he favors the Boss one. Did a great job. And I'm also using a Mesa Clio overdrive, which is a very kind of mild overdrive. It's very transparent, but I've dropped the gain down, pushed up the level just to hit the amp a bit harder. And I've pushed the tone as well to try and get some of that sort of top end. And I've used that for the leads. In the post-production, when I've recorded, I've gone via an API Vision mixer in my UAD. And I'm also using the TC Spatial Expander to give it that 80s sort of chorusing. It's not really chorus, it's more like that sort of D tune, as well as the TC 2290 DT delay. Okay, so let's kick things off by looking at the first riff. This is that famous pedal tone riff, which I think has a slight sort of Randy Rhoads inspiration to it. This riff is based around F sharp. We're in standard tuning, although, again, weirdly enough, George sort of said on one video that the guitar was in E flat tuning, which it's clearly not, because we've got that open E in the riff. So we start off with an open E. And you can hear I've got the octave pedal kicked in here as well. And we're hammering onto the 2nd fret E. And then we're just alternate picking that low F sharp note. And then we're pedaling off of the octave on the D string on the 4th fret, and then up to the flat 2nd, which is on the 3rd fret. So we're playing on the 5th fret of the D. So we're playing that G note. So you get this, and then you're sort of barring your 1st finger, so you can hammer from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret. Let's put that together. Okay, then we go into just straight 16th notes with the F sharp note. Then we change position. We have this little rundown. Start off by pulling off there from 5 to 4 on the A, 7, 5 on the E, 4 on the A, and then 7, 5, 4 on the E. So you get... Now, I'm playing all of this with alternate picking. I'm not very good at picking. I've said that before in my videos, and I almost treat this like a picking workout because you're kind of jumping over strings. So you've got that sort of inside and outside picking technique going on, you know, when you're keeping the picking consistent. But George tends to do this thing where he alternate picks and then he does all downs. You can see him swapping his picking. I tried to do that, but I failed miserably. So I treat it more like a little picking workout. I'm using some palm muting as well. Then we go into the first half of the riff again. Back to the F sharp note. And then we're outlining a Phrygian dominant sound, F sharp Phrygian dominant. We're sliding from the 1st fret. We're playing octaves on the A and the G strings. We're going to just hold that sort of whole tone octave shape. Make sure you mute out the D string. So you slide, you're holding 1st and 3rd fret, and you slide up. And then you're going to slide up from there. And you're going to dip the bar. So you get this. And then you're going to slide up a minor 3rd. So you're going from that A sharp, the major 3rd of F sharp, to B, up to C sharp, and then up to E. Okay, but obviously you're playing that as octaves, and you're just dipping the bar. Just bounce your hand on the bar to scoop in to the final 2 octave shapes. So let's put that first lump of the riff together. Here we go. Okay, then we go around the riff again. Okay, then we play the first portion of the riff. And then we have this figure. So you're playing 4th fret of the A to 5th fret of the E. And then 4th fret of the A to 4th fret of the E. Okay, so it's quite a workout. That's quite demanding, that first riff on your picking hand. So let's just play through that entire riff. Here we go. 3, 4. Okay, so now on to our next riff, and I think that this is probably the hardest riff of the track. Once again, it's a pedal tone riff. You're playing the 2nd fret of the low E string, and you're pedaling off of the 4th fret and the 5th fret of the A. And then we play the 4th fret and the 5th fret of the D, again pedaling off of that 2nd fret of the low E. So you're always going back to that F sharp. Okay, and then we got... Now that's hard, that's why George is kind of barring. You're going 4 hammer onto 5 and then pulling off to the 2nd fret. So that should sound something like this. That's really tricky, that. Then we go into the first part of the riff again. And then we have a... Although he doesn't often play that final note, it's more... which gives him time to sort of get back into position. I included it. I completed the run, but you can sort of get to, play that A note and then slide off. So let's just put that together. We have... And then again. Now here we go. He pulls off the 4th fret as he played the first portion of the riff. And then we have... Okay, so let's put that entire riff together. Here we go. 3 and 4 and... Okay, like I said, I think that that's probably the hardest riff. So those 2 riffs are the riffs that introduce the track, and now it's time to take a look at some of the lead. Okay, so now we introduce what George calls the Mr. Scary Riff. And when he plays this live, he kind of does this sort of, it's a flat 5 being implied. And he plays it more as a sort of a combination. But what I've done here is I've presented it to you as per the original recording, and I've taken the lower portion of the harmony as the main part, as it kind of fits around that sort of F sharp minor pentatonic shape 1, where a lot of the licks appear, and also in the same sort of area as the riff. So that new riff sounds like this. We're going... So you're playing 4 up to 7 on the D, and then 6, 7 on the G, down to 5. And he's using the whammy bar a lot here as well for the vibrato, so it's quite aggressive. And then he's hammering from 5 up to 6. And then we simply repeat that, that little riff. Okay, if I kick in my booster, or the Clio, a little bit more gain, a little bit more top end, and let's just put those 2 sections together. 3, 4. You can hear when I kick that pedal in, it sort of starts getting those highs and the little kind of harmonic overtones as well. Okay, so now we're into the first solo, and I went back and forth with this. I ended up sort of pretty much using part of my original transcription. I think I tried about 3 or 4 different positions to play it in. Now, when George plays it live, he never plays this part the same. He goes into all manner of different improvised licks, and that's the type of player he is. That's what I love about George Lynch. He's always kind of a little bit on the edge. He's always sort of pushing himself, and he's quite unpredictable. I've actually settled with this position. So you're going to start off by picking a 9 on the top E, hammering 10, pulling off to 9 and pulling off to 7. So you get... and then you pull off from 9 to 7 on the B string. So it's a group of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You play it 3 times. Then we slide with our little finger up to 12 on the top E. And we pull off from 12 to 10 to 9 on the top E, and then play 12 on the B. I tried doing this lick as I think it was something like that. But again, it sort of made it more awkward. And when I really slowed it down, the picking sort of made me think, actually, I think it's in this position. Again, this is open to interpretation. I'm just presenting you with a way that I think is correct or that I think works. But of course, if it doesn't work for you, then you feel free to experiment with the fingerings or just play something stylistically appropriate. So you get this. Then we play 9 on the top E. Hammer on 10 to 12 on the B, and then we have... Now, that was a telltale to me because you hear a pick on the 9 on that C sharp, and then you hear a pick on the B note as well. So that took me away from doing a 3-note per string hammer on and pull-off thing because of the picking. So you get... And then we pull off to 9, so you get... And then you're going, so that's 11, 8, 11 on the G, and then sliding from 9 up to 11 on the G, and then we have, so you play 14 on the G, and it's kind of a little bit of a bluesy sort of quarter tone bend when you slow it down. It's a little harder to achieve at speed, and then he pulls off to the F sharp note and adds plenty of whammy bar vibrato. So if you put that together, we get this. Now that's 100% the notes that you hear on the original recording. Okay, so let's just kick the gain in, put that together. Here we go. Okay, then we're back into the Mr. Scary Riff. The first time round, it's the same as we've already played it. Using the whammy bar, some vibrato and dives. And then we have... So you're just adding that extra note, so... Okay, into the next section, we're playing around the F sharp minor pentatonic, F sharp blues scale. We start off by playing 4 to 2 on the G, and then back up 2 to 4. And then we have a little fast triplet pick on the on that 4th fret of the G. So you get... And then you're going to slide quickly up from the 4th into the 5th fret and then back down. So you get... pull off and then okay, so let's just kick in the overdrive, play that section for you. So we come out of the previous lick. For the next lick, again, we're still in F sharp minor pentatonic or blues scale, but we're jumping up to shape number 5. And we start off on the 11th fret of the G. Now, I did wonder if this was one of George's kind of weird flat 5 sort of shapes that he plays, where he plays open strings and hammers. He's got some very unique and unusual phrasing. But again, isolating the parts, I listened to the isolated track online, plus I isolated it myself just for good measure using RX or RX10, and you can clearly hear it's just a little muted note that he plays, probably the 11th fret of the G. So it's a little triplet, and then we're going. So after that, up to the 14th fret of the G, and then we're going to hammer and pull off to the 13th, and then you drop that down with the bar. So following on from that pull off, we have this figure where you're going. Now there you're playing 14, 13, 12 on the B. And you're just pulling off, but as you're playing it, you're dipping the bar. It works a bit better with a bit more gain, actually. So, and then you're sliding down to 10 and then just adding some vibrato. So if we put that together. Okay, quite a healthy dose of that vibrato. Let's put that together with the previous phrase. So we get this. Okay, for the next section, we've modulated to G sharp, and we have a different riff going on, which we will look at as it appears during the breakdown section. This section's based around shape 1 minor pentatonic. We start off with a slow bend on 7 on the B. If you get a pinched harmonic as well, there's a lot of harmonics in this section. I've kicked the overdrive in. And then you play 4 on the top E, pull off 7 to 4 on the B. Then 6 up on the G, release, pull off to 4. And then back to 6. And then you pull off and catch that 4 just before you go into the next lick. So you go. Then we get a quarter tone bend on 7 on the top E. And then we play 4 on the top E, pull off 7, 4 on the B. And then bend up 6 on the G, pull off 4 and back to 6. And that concludes that lick before leading into the tapping section. Okay, so let's just play that lick through for you. Here we go. Okay, really, dig in with the vibrato and try and get some of those pinched harmonics. Okay, so now we're on to the tapping lick. And this is a wide stretched lick. It uses stacked minor thirds with a tap note, a minor third above. So when I say minor thirds, that means a tone and a half. So you're actually playing a diminished 7th arpeggio on one string. And this moves chromatically and is layered with different harmonies, which we will talk about in a moment. Now, when I transcribed this for Guitar Techniques magazine, I based it on a variation that I'd seen George teaching or playing on an old VHS I had, where he played the lick and he was doing like a double tap. That kind of thing, and moving it up. But when I recorded it and I layered it up with the harmonies, it never quite sounded, I thought, the same as the original recording. Now, again, I've watched various videos of George teaching it, and he never really teaches it that way. He's taught it on different strings. I've seen him teach it with tapping, but I've also seen him teach it with string skipping, and he's never really addressed the way that he played it on the original, which is what I was interested in researching. So the isolated tracks were really revealing. Now, what's actually going on? It's completely not what I thought it was. Okay, so we're going to be playing this on the B string. The stretches are a little bit easier here, and there are various harmonies that you could choose, but I've taken this one to be the main one, basically. So you're playing 9 and 12 and 15 on the B, and then you tap on the AT, and you pull off. Now, this is the bit that really caught me by surprise, is that once you've done that pull off, you then tap a semitone higher. So you're going, and then once you've got there, you move your hand up by a semitone and you pull off. and then you move up again. Now, I don't know if that's how we finish it off. You hear him tap that last note, but then you've got that note held, and it kind of makes sense to pull off to that note. Although for our performance, our transcription, we're going to go straight back into the Mr. Scary Riff. But obviously, as I said, I've filmed this as it was recorded, so I've let that final note ring on. So one more time, you're going. Like that, and then you'll go into the next part. So if I kick on the overdrive now, get a little bit more gain, and we speed it up, we get this. So that's the way that he plays it on the original. Okay, something like that. It's a lot more fiddly to play than the way that he performs it live. But that's what's going on, really revealing the isolated tracks. Now, the other thing that confused me was I always thought it was stacked minor thirds. And I've seen other people talking about you just simply play on the adjacent string the same shape. And then I watched a video with George talking about the harmonies, and it didn't really make too much sense to go and being respectful about this because he's George Lynch, but he said he stacked the harmonies and he stacked in a fourth and a fifth and a seventh. But then he said he stacked, it was basically whole tones apart. It was 4 harmonies. So I tried both of these. Once I'd recorded the part in the performance, I then layered up the harmonies and it sounded terrible. So I thought to myself, I think it's stacked minor thirds. So in other words, you've got, so the next one will be, and the next one will be, and then there's a lower one as well. So I took that approach and layered up a 3-part harmony against the original one. So four parts in total playing the same lick. And to my ears, it sounded exactly the same as the original recording, which was how I always thought. I always thought it was stacked minor thirds. That just made more sense to me. So I was really procrastinating this and wasn't too sure if I was, missing the point. And I had the isolated tracks playing on my iPad while I made a cup of coffee. And basically I let it run past the point where I got up to for this lesson. So it went into the next verse that I haven't covered. And when it got to the tapping lick, the isolated tracks actually revealed another part of the harmony. And lo and behold, it was a minor third. So I'm 99% sure that it's stacked minor thirds, the harmonies on the original recording. I think, once you get all the parts going together, it's a very fast lick and there's all the delay and stuff going on. All the notes are sort of bubbling away. It is quite hard to tell, but I think, if you listen to the original and then listen to the recording that I've done with stacked minor thirds, I think it sounds pretty close. So just one more time, like I said, it's a very unusual pattern. Okay, you do that tap, and then once you pulled off, you go up and you tap the next position. And that is exactly what is on the isolated tracks. Okay, so following on from the tapping section, we're back to the Mr. Scary riff, the flat 5 riff. There's some dips with the bar. And the final time we have this variation. We then drop down into the sort of F sharp blues scale and we have. So you're just pulling off there from 5, 4 and 2 on the G. And then up to 4. Play G twice on the 2nd fret and then hammer on from 2 up to 4, 2 up to 4 on the D string. So put that together. Now we're into the chorus section. For the chorus section, we're following the chords. I haven't transcribed this riff, but it's quite interesting. You're playing a B, it's like a B sus to a B major, but the sus and the major third are in the bass. So you play 4 on the D and the G, and you're going, putting your little finger on 7. So that's your sus4, and then down, adding the major third, and you drop it down to A. So you go from B sus to B, and then from A sus to A. But like I said, the sus and the third are in the bass. And then you go straight into riff 2, which is the... Okay, so you're going... But what we're doing here is we're playing a little melody. You're basically following the sus, the sus4 to the major third. So you go. Okay, so that's 9 to 8 on the G string, and then we go all the way up to the 14th fret, and we play the D and the G string, that sort of shape 1 minor pentatonic. So now there's going to be a crossover when you play this riff. In other words, you're going to come out that little figure that you play there ties over into the next bar where the rhythm guitar is taking over. So you can either eliminate that fill and go into the riff, or you could eliminate the riff, or you could play it the way that I've written it. Try and do something like this. Okay, and then to conclude this section, we're just going to play that little sus to major fill again. We're going to go. So you're just adding an extra note there. You're going from 9 on the G up to 11, and then down to 8. And then 7, 9, 6. So... So let's just play through that section in its entirety. 3, 4. Okay, now we're on to the breakdown riff. Now, I've watched some lessons by George, and again, he kind of plays different things. He says that he's starting from G, and then he plays D, and then A, and he just sticks to the same shape. Now, yes, that's what he plays live, but when you listen to the isolated tracks, that is 100% not on the original recording. The first note is basically an F sharp. There's a harmony figure going on underneath, which is like A, and then D, and then we have a slide. So you get, and then you're going to play a D inversion, and then an E inversion, and then. So with that harmony, if you start off over that A major with a G major, it's just going to sound horrendous. Now, I isolated it and really studied this. And again, I am pretty sure that I hear an F sharp minor. Now, that fits harmonically. So, and then you hear a B minor, definitely. And you hear that slide from B up to C sharp. It's really clear as day. That first F sharp is quite buried, but it is definitely there. The slowing down app that I use is Amazing Slow Downer. You can pan it around, and I panned around that isolated guitar, and I separated it myself in RX, and I can hear an F sharp. Now, I've done a slightly unusual fingering for that. You could play it this way, which is 2 to 5 on the E and then 4 on the A, and then just drop that down onto the next group of strings. But I wanted to kind of keep it in keeping with what George is saying, where he says he plays the same shape and moves it around. And maybe this is why he doesn't play it this way live. You're going to play an F sharp on the 2nd fret of the E string, open A to 4th fret, so it's an F sharp minor arpeggio, and then you drop that down and start from the 2nd fret A, open D and to 4th fret, so it's a B minor arpeggio, and then you slide up from 2 to 4. That is 100% on the isolated, so you're going, and then we play a D major, which is 5 on the A, 4 on the D, and 7 on the D. This is more in keeping with what George plays. And then an E major, 7 on the A, 6 on the D, and 9 on the D. And then you go slide into 9, and then 12, and then finally 11. And that's all on the D string. So some of it sort of corroborates with the way that George teaches it. It's just the first couple of arpeggios. And I even saw a video of him teaching it where he kind of explains it, but then he put all these open strings in. It's really unclear what he does there. But like I said, if you listen to the isolated tracks, you can hear clearly an A major. Now, if you harmonise that with a G major, that's not really going to sound that great. If you harmonise it with an F sharp, it's, you know, it's in thirds. It's in keeping with the rest of that line. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So the entire line sounds like this. And if you play that against the harmony, it's in thirds, it's diatonic thirds. So, you know, I don't want to sort of come off being obnoxious, disagreeing with the way that George Lynch taught it, but I really don't hear that on the original. You know, it just, I don't hear that G major arpeggio. You hear that. Now, the first note's a little bit unclear, but you hear, and then you hear a slide from B up to C sharp. So I'm pretty confident that what I'm presenting to you there is correct. Okay, following on from that section, this is where our edit appears. We have this bend. Okay, and then we're going to do these unison bend. And then, so you're playing the 9th fret top E, the 7th fret, 5th, 4th, and you're just a tone and a half higher, and you're bending the B string up to the same pitch. You just start off, you come out of, and then the unisons. Okay, and then on the original, we go into the second round, and that's where you go back into the flat 5 Mr. Scary Riff, but I've eliminated all of that and gone to where the solo would begin, if you like. So we're going to go up and we're going to go, hold that for 4 beats, and then you have a 2/4 bar. You're going, okay, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then you're into the riffs that appear prior to the solos. You go, okay, so it's 4 beats of the first bend and then just 2 beats on that unison bend. So let's just put all the parts together for the breakdown. Here we go, nice and slowly. 3, 4. So as I said, this is where I've done that big edit. I've come out of the unison bends, and instead of going back into the tune again, I've missed out a whole kind of cycle and gone up to that high bend and then that sort of double stop bend. And the next section that we're looking at, the next riff in question, is the riff that occurs prior to the solo section. Now, I haven't included the solo section. There was only so far that I could go with this. As I've already said, I just wanted to cover the riffs, and once I got into it, I thought, well, hang on a minute, why not look at some of the leads? Anyway, the next riff, this is the riff that you'll hear that occurs prior to the solo section. And I've kicked in the octave again. We're going to start off by sliding up from the F sharp to G sharp. Now, this riff actually appears earlier on when we had all the licks in G sharp. This riff is occurring underneath. So we slide up from 2 to 4. So again, it's very similar to the kind of riffs we've seen. We're going on that 4th fret and then adding our little finger on the 7. So, and we play that 7th fret of the A, and then we've got a 4 to 6 hammer on the A string. So, and then we hold that chord, which is we're playing the G sharp. It's like a sharp 5, G sharp, sharp 5. So and then we drop down and we have this little figure. This is quite fiddly. We're going. So that's playing off of the 2nd fret of the E to the 1st fret A, back to the 2nd fret, then the 2nd fret A, that's 2nd fret E, 1st fret A, and back to the 2nd fret of the E. So put that entire riff together. Again, using all alternate picking. Then the band kicks in and we go around the riff again, but this time we've got some variations. We start off exactly the same. Then we go. Okay, so you're sliding in. 7 to 4, and then we go up to 7 on the A, to 4 on the E, and then hammer 4, 6 on the A, and then we go to the 7 on the bottom E, and then that's 4 on the A, and then 6, 7 on the E. Obviously, if you're finding this, I'm going a little bit fast, download the tab, and then you can look at each section, study the tab and see exactly what I'm doing. So one more time, let's just play that new riff nice and slowly. Okay, then we just go around the riff again. Okay, then into the final time around the riff, and this is a little bit tricky to hear, this section. We start off with the first portion. Then we drop down and we're playing 2 on the E and 1 on the A, and we play those together. Then we play a down up on the 2nd fret E. And then as we strike the 2nd fret E and 1st fret A together, we hammer onto the 2nd fret A. So, and then it's kind of a little bit mushy that to hear. I kind of think that's what's going on. So you get. And you finish off with the double pick. And then all I've done to conclude our example, I turned off the octave pedal because it sounds a bit weird when you play chords, and we just played a C sharp 5 chord. That's where you would go into the solo section. So let me just play through that riff nice and slowly for you, that entire section. Here we go. 3, 4, and... So I hope you've enjoyed this slightly abbreviated arrangement. As I said, my original intention was just to cover the main riffs. But obviously, as I started looking at my old transcription, I was like, oh, could have got that better. I wish I'd done that like that. And then I listened to the isolated tracks and I opened an entire can of worms. So, the main focus of this was riffs, and that's why I put together an abbreviated sort of version, a little arrangement that gives you enough backing track to sort of nail the riffs and also have a go at that sort of opening lead section. Obviously, I haven't covered the sort of second verse and the second chorus or the guitar solo. Who knows, maybe in the future. I would also just like to say, I hope I don't come off as being a little bit obnoxious going, oh, George did it like this, and I don't agree with him. Of course, the guy recorded the track and he's played it a multitude of different times, thousands of times probably, and you end up sort of, adopting a song to play it live. And I think the versions that he's taught online sort of show how he plays it live. And he discusses some of the layers, but he says himself, I can't really remember what I did. I don't know every single part. So, I've really enjoyed digging into this. And I think having the isolated tracks available online definitely changed things for the way that I listen to it, because as I said, I'd written out a transcription for a guitar magazine years ago, and it's probably about 80% there, but there were some bits in it that the tapping lick was so revealing, and also sort of reworking some of the fingerings of those opening licks, that opening phrase. So, and also that arpeggio, the breakdown arpeggio climbing section as well. So I feel pretty sure that I've got those pretty accurate to the original recording. And as I said, I think George, when he teaches those, he's just sort of basing them on how he plays the track live. That's what I love about George Lynch. He's such a monster guitar player with such an unorthodox approach. His intervals, the wide stretches, and he's a real improviser. And every version you hear of Mr. Scary, whether it's sort of him solo, whether it's with Dokken or whether it's with Lynch Mob, it's always different. He's always really pushing it. And, he's still so active. He must be one of the most active guitar players from that era. I absolutely love the stuff he does with Doug Pinnock. The KXM stuff is really very cool. So he's definitely one of the top guitar players for me to listen to. So I really hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you don't already, please subscribe. The channel literally just limped over the 10K mark. So for those of you that have started following me, thank you so much. And for those of you that do interact in the comments, if you have some other riffs or any solos that you fancy me deep diving and being really nerdy about, then add them to the comments. And don't forget to download the backing track and the tab. That's it from me. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.